Ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners, welcome to our first English podcast. Society in English. In this podcast, we are going to treat with different Moroccan social issues and phenomena. So, our first episode is about the English language situation in Morocco. For this reason, we have a guest with us, Mr. Yasser Abaragh. He is a teacher of English in a language center. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor to be in your program.
Thank you. In this episode, we are going to dig deep to discover responses about many questions that people ask about the English language situation in Morocco meantime. So let's get started, Mr. Yasser.
Okay.
As a teacher of English in a language center, how do you see the English situation or the English language situation?
So, if we want to talk about the languages in general in Morocco, we have to talk about the French colonization to Morocco, which went through three major stages. The first stage was in the first diplomatic contact with the Anglophone world, and it dates back to the 13th century when King John of England sent a message to Sultan Nasser asking for an alliance against France and support against his enemies within Britain. And of course, due to the strategic geographical position of Morocco, the Great Britain sought to deepen the political, economic, and cultural relations with Morocco. Later on, the first Moroccan ambassador of London was sent by Mohamed to King Charles I with a message of peace and friendship in 1637. And for this reason, some historians believe that until 1904, Morocco was part of the informal empire of Great Britain. So that was before the colonial stage. Okay.
Yes,
So during
yes,
during the colonial stage, Morocco was officially occupied by France, of course, on March the 30th, 1912. And the day Morocco signed the Treaty of Fez that declared it as a French protectorate. Okay.
Yes.
And after that, Tangier was and after that, the French was imposed as a language of communication during between the French people and Moroccans.
Yes.
So later, the fact that Tangier became an international zone is helped a lot to make English to have a contact with English speakers, because Tangier became a destination for many British and American diplomats, spies, writers, and businessmen. And the English was the language of communication between the different nationalities that settled in Tangier. The second major event during the colonial stage was during the Second World War, when thousands of Americans or American soldiers landed in Morocco and established some military bases in Casablanca, Knitra, and Tangier. And this event is considered to be the most important historical link between Moroccans and English. And this dates back to 1942, when the USA has decided to conduct military landings on Morocco to prepare for a future attack on southern Europe. And these landings were a part of the operation that's called Operation Torch, intended to put an end to the Nazis. Anyways, just before signing the independence of Morocco, just a few years before the independence, Amidis knew its inception in 1950 in Rabat, and the staff of Amidis they wanted to move to a more vibrant city, which is Casablanca, and they set up an office and to expand their program. And during its foundation, they focused on promoting studies of Moroccan and American students. So, anyways, as you can see now, you can see that the language is used in a number of domains, such as call centers, scientific writings, along with a relatively scanty number of newspapers and magazines published in English. And so English now is taught in high schools, and there is a number of famous English private centers, of which British and American centers are only ones. Among other things, these centers and the call centers, the scientific writings and everything help to spread the English in Morocco. Okay.
How do you see the governmental decision of imposing French as the main language of teaching, especially scientific subjects, instead of Arabic or French?
Well, for me, as you know, French is not only a language of for education. It is a way of communication between Morocco. I'm talking about the market, for jobs, some official papers, and especially the communication between French speaking countries and Morocco. And as you can see now, French is the second. I would say it's the second language is the second language in Morocco, and it's widely spoken among Moroccans. And what the Minister of Education stated before about French, he said that French will always be a first foreign language, and English will not be as important until 10 years from now. So, and this actually, there was a lot of criticism followed the Amzazi's statements, and as Moroccans took the social media and
Sorry, sir. Do you mean that the decision is political more than educational or something like that?
I think it's political and economical more than educational. So now you have to speak French, because if you speak French, you have a better job. You have a better opportunity. If not in Morocco, you have a better opportunity abroad. Okay, but people still think that this language is a language of colonization. On the other hand, they think, it's actually a fact. English is a language of globalization. So if you have English have the English skills, you will have even better opportunities to work abroad. And now you can see that jobs now, or employers started to require people to have English skills plus French.
So, sir, you mentioned to English and globalization. So, what's the relationship between these two items?
So when you talk about a language, you talk about a international. When you talk about English, I'm sorry, you talk about an international language. Wherever you go, if you speak, it's like a passport to every country. You know, people, for example, I have students that try to learn French, to learn English. Just they say just because we want to travel. Why don't they learn French? Why don't they learn Spanish? Well, actually, Spanish is, I think, is the second spoken language internationally. So people think that if you speak English, you can go, you can have a job not only in the United States, not only in the English speaking countries, but also in other countries around the world.
Okay, great, great, interesting, sir. So, I have another question. Uh, what can English offer to the learners or speakers?
So languages give way for more opportunities, and the use of English as a language of business and commerce will surely help more young Moroccans to find jobs. And the goal of teaching English in Morocco is to elevate the language to a higher level and encourage more private schools to offer English. And as you know, the Akhawain University in Ifran is an outstanding example of an English language university that follows an American style curriculum. It's not always related with jobs. It will give the Moroccan citizens the opportunity to be open to other countries or other cultures. Now, I think all the people have not all the people, but the people that speak French fluently tend to know more about the French culture. Same thing. If we learn English and we learn English as a language, not as a subject in schools. I have to do my grades, I have to have like good grades and that's it. That's when it ends. No, I need to study English as a language, as a way of communication and as a door to another culture.
Okay, nice. What do you mean by language as a culture?
When I will talk about my experience when I first was exposed to English. I started watching more American products, and then the more I watch, the more I ask questions. Why do people do this? What is this? Why is that? And those questions, for the sake of curiosity, I try to answer those questions. So it's like a cycle. I learn English, then I learn about the culture, then I have questions, then I go back and learn English about that specific item in that culture. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, you mean that when we learn a language, we also learn traditions, habits,
Yes.
the way of thinking, etc. Isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's not only in English, it's any language. We know that we have that differences, and because it's different, it gives us the chance to think about the other's cultures and why is it different from our culture. Or actually, it doesn't have to be differences, also similarities. When you see other people thousands of kilometers away and they have also they have almost the same culture, it makes you ask questions. Why? How? And that's how you learn more and more. Sometimes my students ask me about why English is really important, and I have a lot of students that study university, and they're actually from most of them from Senegal, Nigeria, and they come here to Morocco and they study they study their masters or their PhD, and they are in need of English for research. First, like for writing their research papers. So if I try to as a Moroccan student, for example, if I want to look for something in Arabic, I'm not going to find as much information as French. So French, there are you can find more resources, and if I want more information, I just go to English. And actually, it depends on it depends on the major, or on the domain. So uh, when you search in English, you find a lot of resources, and a lot of useful resources. So it's like a funnel. And so you have English, for example, at the top. You have English on the top, and then you have French, and then you have Arabic. Now, thanks to the internet, you can see a lot of translated works and resources from from French to Arabic, or from English to Arabic, and other languages, Russian, German, etc.
Okay, sir. So it means that when we learn English, it helps us to open different doors, even in for our culture, isn't it?
Exactly. So language is a part of a citizen's identity. Now, as you see, we have the Darija, we have Amazigh, we have French and Spanish, and you can see that we have some of each culture of each country, or I would say each like an item or two items, or like from each culture. Many words are used are Spanish, French, and then there is, of course, Arabic and Amazigh. So I think Moroccan culture is
A
very
multicultural country.
it's a multicultural country. Why not we add English as well?
Yes, I think that we have some words. For example, when we say in Derija Kushina, it means the kitchen.
The kitchen, yes. Spanish.
Originally is English.
So I'll give you another example, which is Spanish. First, there is rueda.
Rueda, yes, in Spanish, but I'm talking about English.
Well, there is English. There is a tank.
A tank, yes. Tank. Great, interesting, sir. So, for another question, do you see that social media and YouTube, for example, influence youth to learn English?
Definitely. I myself use social media to speak in English. The first thing, I decided to speak in English, and there weren't a lot of people around me that speak English, and I had that need to find somebody to speak with, and especially a native speaker. So actually, I went on Facebook and I started adding people from different countries. I don't know any one of them, just random people, and I send them this message, say, "Hey, I'm from Morocco. I'd like to practice English a little bit. So we just, I just want to talk with you, etc." I think I still have some friends. I started doing this in my 20s. Now it's 10 years ago, and I still have some friends from those people that I added the first time I started to speak English with, and it really helped me. Now people write articles on Facebook. I'm talking about Moroccans now. So they write articles on, in groups. They share. You can see groups of only English speakers. People can create groups on WhatsApp just to learn English. And for example, they say, okay, for today we're going to, or each one of you is going to share 5 words that learned at that day. And they share, they discuss, and they send audios. And so this actually helps a lot. YouTube, of course, and I think this is one of the best contributors to the spread of English among Moroccans, because you just can go on YouTube and learn English, Now what I wanted to say, we are exposed more to other cultures on Facebook, so we can see the news from what's happening in the United States, what's happening in UK, what's happening around the world in English, and people now can react, because when you try to speak with someone face to face, you have to build the confidence, and it's quite hard to build the confidence because it's the first time. But I think in the social media, people have the courage, because they stay anonymous, or at least they are behind their screens, so they have the confidence to speak.
I have already seen a YouTuber who urges Moroccans to learn English, because it's a language of business, it's a language of technology, and he said that French is not even more practical in Morocco. So do you agree with this?
I agree with some of the things he said. If we talk about French as a language of economy, it is still practical, because we still have a strong relationship with France, and we still have a strong connections with France economically and politically. So if we change the French to English, there's going to be a lot of damages,
because it needs more money and more time.
Exactly. So when you say you've changed the French language to English, that means you changed the country that you've had a strong relationship for years.
Okay, sir, thank you. So for another and the last question.
By the way, can I before you ask the question?
Yes.
What I think is the change of French language. I think English should be considered equally, or should be adopted equally, like French. So we don't say, oh, no, French should be the first or English should be the first. We just need you just need to make English as important as French, and I think that would keep everything. I don't know. Keep everything okay with politically and economically with friends, and in the same time we're going to build more connections to English-speaking countries.
Okay, great. So what should we do to change the English position in Morocco?
I think the first thing in order to change the situation of English in Morocco, I think first it should be a mandatory subject in schools, like French. As I said earlier, it should be equally, not only in business, not only in the job market. It's in education. So students start learning English from the first grade, not even the first grade, like from preschool. And why don't we do the same thing with English? And I think that would help a lot. That's the first thing. The second thing is we've been watching a lot of American movies in French. So I think at least if we could change that, I think people would be more exposed to English, and people would try to learn English and actually understand English. Start by learning it. Just watch the movie. You might understand the whole idea just from the scenes, etc. And you might pick up some words. The third thing, and I think this is going to be a little bit hard. And I'm talking here about media. So talking about radios and TV. If we could have news in English, that would be so much better. I don't think you would have to worry about the English situation in Morocco anymore. It's going to get better because people, we were exposed to French, and now if people are exposed to English, I think it's going to spread wide.
Thank you, Mr. Abaragh, for your fruitful participation.
Thank you again. Thank you for having me in your program. It's a really great honor, and I'm looking forward to doing more episodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your listening. This is the end of our episode. If you have any ideas, questions, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to comment. Don't forget also to subscribe on our channel. Have a nice day. Bye bye.